Thank you for joining us. We'll be starting shortly.
Good morning to all our valued Candy users and a very warm welcome to the 2021 Candy Visual User Seminar. Over the course of the next 3 days, we will be helping you to get the most out of your Candy solution with specific focus on estimating, planning, and post-tender best practices. First up to show you the power of Candy estimating is Mr. Brindley Webster. Brindley, take it away.
Thank you, Kabilo. Okay, so guys, I'm going to be taking through the following today. Firstly, we are going to create a job and select a master. From there, we're going to look at the subcontract adjudicator. I'm going to take you through a recap of the old subcontract adjudicator 2, and I'm going to show you the soon to be released subcontract adjudicator 3 and all of the new features. From there, I will show you how you are able to then do a request for quote from within Candy. I'll show you the RFQ template letter and also the subcontractor database. From there, we will price using first principles, using the master as our template, a master as our template. From there, we'll look at some estimating reports, a tender finalization, and the process of finalizing a tender inside of Candy. We will then apply markup. We'll then price our indirect costs. Once we've priced them, we'll do some indirect cost analysis. I'll then show you the top sheets. And lastly, we will look at reports. Okay, so first I'm going to show you guys how to create a job. It's called the Digital Twin Office Park, which we've been sent from a client. We'll then select a master, and from there, we're going to import the Excel PLQ. So I'm going to be creating a new job, and it is called the Digital Twin Office Park Tender. I then need to move it into the under the correct heading, which is tenders. I will then go into the job click on bull prep, and it will prompt us to use an actual master. You'll notice that the JBCC master has been selected. If you wanted to change it, you could click on change master, click on companies and jobs, and you'll notice in my company, I have all my RIB CCS masters under one heading. And you'll notice that the JBCC master selected. I'm happy with using the JBCC master. I'm then going to click on select, click on OK. And just so that you know, when you select a master, all of the following information gets copied. Your trade definitions, your resource type definitions, and so on. So there's quite a lot that gets copied from the master into the current job that you're doing. This saves you a lot of time in not having to duplicate by putting in that information again and again. All right, so I'm going to click on OK. Once I've clicked on OK, I will then click on bull importing. And this is the document that I'm going to use to import my Excel BOQ. I already have my digital twin office park open, the Excel that has been sent to me from the client. I'm going to just highlight all of the information that I want to take through to Candy. Once it's all being highlighted, I'm then going to right-click, copy, go back into Candy, right-click, and paste. The next thing I will need to do is identify the columns. So firstly, that is my page number. And click on page number and use the green arrow to identify it. Or I could click on, under the available column, click on it, drag it and drop it. And the quickest way for me is to double click. So next I double click on item number, description, units, and bill quantity. So I've now identified all of the columns. I can now click on continue. And this is now my bill importing status. I'm happy with all of this information. I can now close it. So you'll notice that my job already has heading levels in place. If you had received a job, it might not have those heading levels in. You would have to put those in manually. But to speed up time for this seminar, I've already put in that structure. All right, I'm now going to close my job. And just so that you know what has been pulled through from the master, I'm going to click on my estimating definitions and settings. And you will notice if I go up to number 1.1, all my trades have been pulled through from my master. My resource types have also been pulled through from my master. If I click on number 2.4, my global variables have also pulled through from the master. And one more thing I want to show you guys is number 7.1, which is my adjudicator codes. So soon we're going to be going through the adjudicator codes and how we use them in the estimating process. I'm also going to show you the resource list. If I click on the R for the resource list, you'll notice that the resource list is empty. However, if I hover my mouse on the R, it says shift for master. So by holding shift down on your keyboard and clicking on the R, it then shows you your actual master resource list. Okay, so that is the resource list for your job, and that is your master resource list. So here you have all of the necessary resources that you require to price the job, which have been pulled through from your master. The benefits of having a master that is set up correctly is it helps you to speed up your tendering process. So as an example, I've closed all my level headings and I've opened up so that you guys can see my heading level 2s. My heading level 2s have been set up as my resource types. Okay, so fuel, labor, material, plant, those are all resource types. If I'm looking for a material, I can open up the material heading. It's then broken up into the different trades. So you can see I have concrete materials. And then if I'm looking for ready-mix concrete, I then open ready-mix concrete out, and I now have all of my different strengths of ready-mix concrete. So that is the benefits of having a well-structured resource list. Okay, I'm going to close everything that's on my screen. Next, we're going to be looking at the subcontractor adjudicator. So I'm going to take you through a recap of the subcontractor adjudicator 2. I'll then show you the soon to be released subcontractor adjudicator 3 and all of the new features. I'll then show you a demonstration inside of subcontractor adjudicator 3, and I'm going to show you how we would go about allocating package codes. So a recap of subcontractor adjudicator 2. In the subcontractor adjudicator 2, we have our main bill of quantities, where we are able to extract packages and isolate packages. So you'll notice on the screen, we have extracted the waterproofing from the main BOQ, and then we've also extracted the painting. Once we've extracted it, we can then capture all of our subcontractor quotes. We can adjudicate up to 12 subcontractors. Once we have captured all of the quotes, we can then run an adjudication, and then based on your decision, those rates can get sent to the back to the main BOQ. Now we have the soon to be released subcontractor adjudicator 3. So some of the new features include the new and improved super list documents. Your column, row, and cell selection all work as they do in the main bill. Your functions are context sensitive. Your column widths can be adjusted. You can now display foreign languages. You are able to filter and find work as you would in the main bill. You can open and close your level headings as they do in the main bill. You can view the full bill description. And lastly, there is a new subcontractor detail documents, which I'm going to take you through all of these in a bit. So now I'm going to take you guys through a demonstration. So I'm going to firstly show you how you go about allocating subcontractor package codes. I'll then take you through the subcontractor RFQ, the database. From there, I will show you the letter templates. Okay, so you're going to have the letter and a database, and you're going to select which subbies it is that you want to send them to. And that's where we're going to perform the inquiry. And from there, we're going to import the subcontractor quotes. Before we move on and do to the live demonstration, let's ask ourselves, what is RFQ, or what is a RFQ? It is a request for quote. So you're going to now send a RFQ from Candy. Instead of extracting information from Candy, having Excel and Word all used together to perform an inquiry. By using one system, it's obviously going to speed up your time of doing the tender, and it makes things a lot easier for you. So, and you can then send the relevant subcontracted packages to the relevant subcontractors. You're not going to be sending, as an example, waterproofing to a painting subcontractor. You're sending the relevant trade to what that subcontractor does. And you can also do the same thing for your material packages. You can send them to the relevant supplier. So the normal process, or the typical tender cycle, would be for you to now procure the tender documents. Once you've procured the tender documents, you would then need to extract your subcontractor and material packages. You would then need to create a cover letter. Most of the time it gets done in Word. From there, you would then need to create a list, or maybe you have a database in Excel that you need to extract these subbies that you need to send the inquiry to. Once you're done with that, you need to send one email one at a time. Send an email one at a time, over and over. So you send the email. Once you've sent it, you go to your outbox, or to your sent items rather. You then forward the email, clean up the email so that the subcontractor can see that you haven't forwarded from another subcontractor. And once you've cleaned it up, you would then go and send it to that subcontractor. So it's a tedious process. It takes a lot of time. From there, you capture each quote manually, because they're not going to send it to you in a format that you can import back into Candy. So that again is going to waste a lot of your time. From there, you need to then adjudicate the quotes to find out which subbie or material supplier you want to use, and then send the rates to the bill of quantities. So I'm going to take you through a demonstration live in Candy to show you how you can use Candy to cut out some of these steps or make it a bit easier. And then the process would start all over again, where you would go back and get another tender. Go into Candy, and I'm going to take you through a demonstration. So firstly, I'm going to open up my pricing bill of quantities. You will notice that I have additional columns. I have the package codes column, and I'm going to show you now how to allocate or how to include these columns. So if you click on View, Add, Remove Columns, there are the two columns that you would need to include. It's the subcontractor package code list and your subcontractor package code description. Okay, so those are the two columns. I click on OK, and there are the two additional columns. I'm now going to close all my level headings, and we need to firstly understand which trades are going to be sent to my subcontractors. So looking at this job, P&G's, the main contractor, will price the earthworks. The main contractor will do There Isn't Much. Concrete and masonry will also be by the main contractor. So the waterproofing and the paint work would be sort of specialist trades where we would require subcontractor quotes. So I'm going to click on waterproofing and then Control Spacebar to open up all my level headings. I'm now going to allocate package codes to all of the waterproofing bill items. So I'm going to Shift click in the first on the heading, scroll all the way down to the last waterproofing item, Shift click again. Now all of the waterproofing packages or bill items are now highlighted. And then in the package code, I'm going to right click, allocate package codes. I could scroll up and down looking for it, but a quick way of doing it is to search for it in the bar down below, and we're looking for water, and there's the waterproofing. I double click on waterproofing, and you'll notice now that all of the waterproofing bill items have been allocated the subcontractor package code WP, which is for waterproofing. I'm then going to do the same for the painting subcontractor. So I'm going to shift click in the first on the heading for painting, go to the last bill item of painting, shift click again. And then on the blue highlighted area, I'm going to right click, allocate package codes. And in the description column, I'm going to search for paintwork, double click on paintwork, and now all of the bill items for painting have been allocated. I can now close my pricing bill, and I'm going to open up my subcontractor adjudicator. And you'll notice that the waterproofing and the paintwork is already there because we've allocated those package codes. I'm going to open up my waterproofing, and you'll notice that it's not blank. All of those bill items that were allocated the package codes to are all inside of this bill of quantities, and the exact same thing for the paintwork. All of the bill items are in the package. Okay. I'm now going to take you through the features of the RFQ. So firstly, the subcontractor database that is within Candy. I'm going to show you the subcontractor RFQ letter template that gets produced in Candy. I'm going to show you how to send out the sending out of a tender to suppliers or subcontractors from within Candy, and then the quotes can be imported directly into Candy, saving you time typing every single rate or quote. Okay, so back into Candy. Now click on adjudicators, and here you'll notice there is the subcontract database. You then have the subcontractor database attributes and standard letter template. We're going to be going through the standard template letters soon. Let's focus on the database. Okay, so this little message will pop up to tell you that we have a new subcontractor database. You can close this message, and this is our database. So remember, because we're starting from scratch, we have 0 subcontractors. And how would you go now and capture a subcontractor? So firstly, you're going to put in the code. So you're going to give him a code, and the code that I'm going to allocate to the subcontractor is WP for waterproofing, SW because the company's name is Seal Waterproofing 01. Once you've allocated a code, you can then hit enter. Now the rest of the fields will become available for you to capture information. So the company name is called Seal Waterproofing. You can then go and put in the company registration name, number, the VAT number, the contact person we're going to put in as John Peters, the common name, his title, any remarks. You then have another tab, which is your contact details. You could put in his address, his telephone number, cell phone number, email address, or his website. We then have the next tab would be the company details, where you could put in your company tax status, insurance status, and put in a date that it expires, and so on. The last tab is your company attributes, and this is really nice, which I'm going to demonstrate to you shortly, how you could then allocate this subcontractor to a specific trade, to a specific geographical area. You could put a minimum and maximum values that the subcontractor can handle. You could give him a vendor assessment to say that he's an excellent subcontractor or a poor subcontractor, and then quality assessment, you can then go in, say that his quality is good, poor, or not bad. Okay, where would you update all of these company attributes? It's found here under Edit Attributes. Okay, so these are the different attributes that you can allocate. So you'll notice on the bottom left corner that the data source is on your local computer. The best way of doing it is to put everything onto a network. So if you have a team of estimators, they're all accessing your network where you have all the most updated details, and they don't, one estimator doesn't have one telephone number and the other estimator have a different telephone number for the same company. So what I'm going to show you now is we're going to switch over to a network database. So by clicking on tools, and I'm changing from my local computer to my network master. And ask me if I'm sure. I'm going to say yes. It brings up this little message again. And now you can see we have all of the subcontractors on our database. All this information has been populated. And the bottom left corner, the data source is your network master. So how many times have you tried to or wanted to send out a tender, and you remember meeting a subcontractor, he's giving you a card, and you're scrambling now for the subcontractor's details? Or you now need to go and look at a previous email, try to remember the name of the company or the name of the individual that works at the company in order to get their details. By having a network master, everything is found in one place. Okay, all your estimators can use the relevant information. And the beauty of having this, you'll notice, is that we have what we call the inquiry attributes. So I can go now and filter out for relevant trades, geographical areas, minimum and maximum values, vendor assessment, and quality assessment. So we're going to do a little demonstration. I'm going to do a little demonstration to show you how you are able to filter out for specific subcontractors. So remember, we are sending out our waterproofing. So under the relevant trades, I'm going to click on the drop down, and I want to look for only my waterproofing subcontractors, and then I click on include. You'll notice now that it is reduced to 52 waterproofing subcontractors. Then I want them in a specific geographical area. Click on the drop down. I'm looking for subcontractors in the Gauteng province of South Africa, and I then say and must have. I click on and must have. Now it's reduced to 12 waterproofing subcontractors in the Gauteng area. I then have a minimum value and a maximum value. So if I knew that the subcontractors cannot handle anything above a certain value, I could use that. But in my example, I want to use a CIDB grading of 6. Okay, so they must be CIDB grading level 6. And then when it comes to the, I can then click on and must have, and it's now found 2. I could do a further assessment of if they are excellent, poor, or good. Okay, so maybe when we've done a job previously, when we had our closeout meeting, contracts manager said never ever use the subcontractor again because they're poor. I can mark a subcontractor as poor if they're good or excellent. Okay, we're going to leave that field blank at the moment. So you'll notice that it is found 2. I can now click on view results, and there are my 2 subcontractors that meet my inquiry attributes, my filter. Okay. Next, I'm going to run you through the RFQ letter template. So I'm going to close the database, click on adjudicators, subcontractor database, and there is the standard letter template. Okay, so a lot of time was spent creating these letters for each tender and for each subcontractor. These can get generated within Candy and attached to an email along with the relevant packages. You're also able to print and fax these letters with customized letter for each subcontractor. Okay, so obviously faxing is rather old school. So we would rather prefer to email these off to all of the subcontractors. Because of Candy's lookup codes, information will be populated from the subcontractor database and the job properties. So I'm now going to click on the standard letter template, and you'll notice that there is a letter template. I'm going to click on new because we're creating a new one. We can call it the DTOP, so the Digital Twin Office Park. And I'm just going to put in a standard letter. If I select this, you'll notice that it's blank. We have put in a sample template. So on the bottom, you'll see sample template. If I click on that, it basically brings through a generic one where you are now able to go and edit it. At this stage, we are not able to put in your company letterhead or logo. We will eventually get there. We then have lookup codes. So by clicking on the lookup code, you can insert a subcontractor inquiry lookup code. And you can now go and put in the job, the company, the date, the time, and so on. So just to save us a bit of time, I'm going to show you how it works. So just above just below date, I'm going to insert a lookup for the subcontractor, and I want to put in the contact person and green tick that. So you notice that the contact person goes in there. You then have your insert project tender detail lookup codes. Okay, so you'll notice before I even do that, I'm going to want to put it after there. Lookup code, insert your project tender details lookup code, and I want to put in the tender reference number. Okay, what is the tender reference number and where is it finding it? If you click on main and estimate details, so you notice that all this information is blank. If I populate the tender reference number, so it's DTOP 21, I click on OK. So when I print this letter, you'll notice that it will pull through that reference number. Okay, so what I've done, I have gone and created a template, which I'm now going to import to show you guys the benefits of having and this is the one. Okay. So we are now going to go and perform an inquiry. So how do we do it? Again, let's go and do a filter in our subcontractor database to the relevant subcontractors. Okay, so you can see the data source is network. So the relevant trade I'm looking for is waterproofing, and to include, it's found 52. Relevant area, geographical area, Gauteng province, and must have. And then lastly is going to be the vendor assessment, 6, and must have. So I found the 2, I then view my results. I then select all of these subcontractors that I want to send to. And then once it's highlighted, I can then right click and go to request for quotes, and I want to email. Okay, so you can print or you can email. I want to email RFQ letter. And then who do I want to send it to? I want to send it to all of the subcontractors found in this inquiry. That's correct. The email subject header. So I can then change that to Digital Twin Office Park RFQ. It's asking me which template do I want to use. I can click on the drop down, and I'm going to use number 3, the one that I've recovered, and then attach the selected adjudicator package, Excel export. We want to attach the one for waterproofing. I can then green tick this. Or let's rather use the one that we created, this Digital Twin Office Park standard letter. Green tick that, and then you'll notice that it creates. Then we'll open up my email, and there it creates the package. I'm now going to send it to myself so that you guys will see how you receive it. There's the subject. Click on send. It then generates the second email, which we were going to send to info@SA Waterproofing. So it will create, after you it creates the next email. It just keeps creating emails for all of the subcontractors. So can you see that you're not forwarding emails over and over one by one to each subbie? All you're doing is you're sending them by just clicking on send over and over again. So I don't want to send this email, but I want to show you how you would have received the email. So the email will come through with the 2 attachments. The first attachment I would like you guys to look at is the waterproofing package. So you'll notice these are all of the waterproofing packages or bill items, and it's been sent out in such a manner that the would not be able to make any changes to the descriptions. The only thing that they would be able to do is to put in the actual rates. Okay, they can only put in the rates, and once all the rates are in, they would then can save it on their PCs and send it back to you as the main contractor, where you would be able to import it, because there's a link that gets formed between Candy and the Excel. If they make any changes to this Excel, as an example, they copy and paste this onto another Excel, the link between the 2 will then get lost. And when you try to import it, Candy is not going to allow you to import it because they've made changes. The next thing you can have a look at is the subcontractor, the RFQ letter. When I open this up, and you see it then has the company name, it has the date, it has the contact person, the company that it's gone to, their address, and remember I went and put in the tender reference number. You can see that's the tender reference number. So on this letterhead, or on this template letter, you could also include for links to all of the backup information, so the specifications and the drawings, so that when they click on that link, they can automatically go to the drawings and specifications, which will save you time. So that is the beauty of using our subcontractor database. Once you've sent it out, you could then go back to the adjudicator, and then for the waterproofing subcontractor, you'll notice that this is the new subcontractor adjudicator 3, slightly different. If I want to add a subcontractor, I need to click on this little gear. Once I click on that gear, this is the new window. So this is where you could now go and import all of your subcontractors. So remember, we have seal waterproofing. Okay, you then have your factor, your formula, the results. You can allocate currency codes. You have a rate modifier, your column used, your spread status, nothing has been spread, or it can be linked. Okay, once I have created that subbie, I can now click on import. And it brings up this little message. And then what do I want to import? I could go and select which subbie it is. But for the subcontractor, I want to import his quote. Okay, so I'm going to import for seal. I can then go and browse to where I've saved his quote. I've saved his quote under estimating. There's the waterproofing. I imported. Fixed rates have been imported. I can now close this. Sorry, before I continue, you'll notice you can again change columns, as I mentioned, as one of the new features. And when I open up the waterproofing subbie, you'll notice there are all the subcontractors' rates. Once that is done, so you'll notice he also hasn't priced all of the bill items. I can now compare quotes. If I had more than one quote, it will list all of the, so this is the new compare quotes. It will list all of the subcontractors with all of their comparisons. I could then right click on the rates and send the rates to the bill. And this we've covered in previous webinars, how we would send these rates to the BOQ. So that covers the features of the RFQ and the subcontractor database. So looking at the next slide, you'll notice that these are still the processes that need to happen inside of when you are preparing a tender, process flow. But now we have the ability to use Candy to create our RFQ cover letter. We can use Candy database in order to get the list of all the subcontractors that we are sending everything out to. You can use Candy to send the emails instead of doing it one by one. The emails still get created one by one, but we don't have to clean up the email over and over again. All we're going to do is click on send. We do not need to capture the emails manually. We can import them. We can adjudicate the quotes from within Candy and then send the rates to the bill of quantities from within Candy. The next step is to show you guys pricing, first principle pricing using the CCS master or any master. How it is possible to firstly do it by bill description matching. I'm going to show you how to do it, the new worksheet pricing using the master, and then price code allocations. And we've set the JBCC master as our master for this job. I'm now going to click on, firstly, I'm going to open up my pricing bill of quantities. I'm just going to maximize it. And now I'm going to click on bill prep, bill description matching. But now I want to match not within the job, but against the master. So I want to see how many bill items description matches the actual master descriptions. Okay, so this little window will pop up and you'll notice that you have your bill of quantities and you have your master BOQ matches. On the bottom right, I'm going to click on match. Once I've clicked on match, I can then untick the first heading there, which says include headings above items. And I can now click on OK. And if I scroll down, you'll notice wherever you see something populated in the master BOQ match bill description column, it has matched the job's description exactly. So these are all PNG items. Then we get to the actual job, and you notice there it's matched. It has a price code, but you'll notice that this price code column is blank because we're actually going to need to copy those across. Okay, so there is quite a lot that is matched, and I'm very lucky this time. Okay, so I'm going to now right-click in the price code column, and I'm going to copy my master price codes to twins. And then I confirm that, and you now see that it's copied the one that from the master into the actual job. I can now close my master description matching, click on my actual job, and if I scroll up, you'll notice now that everything that is matched has been priced. It doesn't mean it's been priced and I can now go and submit my tender. I would still need to go into every single worksheet, make sure that I have updated my productions, my waste, my resource rates in order to be the most up to date. Okay, the next thing that we are going to do is new worksheet pricing using the master. So what I want to do next is do a filter for all of my unpriced items. So I'm going to click on view. I'm going to go down to filter, go to pricing and unpriced items. Okay, so what items have been unpriced? Firstly, waterproofing and painting. We're going to ignore those two trades because those two trades are subcontractor trades. I now have risk of collapse and I have a extra over for face brick that has not been priced correctly. So the first item, the risk of collapse, we're going to price it using the double click function. Okay, so we're going to double click in the net rate column. Once I double click, it tells me that I need to allocate a trade. I'm going to click on yes. And I know that this falls under earthworks. I'm going to double click on earthworks. It now opens up the price code worksheet. I'm now going to click on insert AWS, insert a worksheet. And instead of me, with the source is on the job, instead of me selecting job, I'm going to select master. And then I can use these scrollers, we call them scrollers, spinners, to go up or down. So I'm going to go all the way down because I know this price code. Okay, so you can, as you're spinning, you'll notice that the description in the little block down below changes. Okay, so the code that I'm going to use there is EJ2200. And you'll notice that it is for risk of collapse. If you look at the pricing description that we're trying to price, it matches exactly. I can now click on OK. It pulls through the worksheet from the master. I will then need to go and look at my productions, my wastes, my resource rates, and then store the worksheet. And there I've priced it using the append function. The next one I'm going to show you guys is we're pricing this next item, which is extra over for brickwork. And how do I do that? I find this the quickest way in my experience is to double click in the price code column. Once you've double clicked, it then opens up your master price code. So you can see it has one tab for your job price codes and then the master price codes. So I know that I'm looking for extra over. So I can actually go and search either if I know what the actual price code is, or I can go and search if I know what the word is. I'm going to type in your extra, and you'll notice it filters out for all of the extra over items. I'm looking for BJ EJ5450. That's the one. I confirm it. And they have priced the item. You'll notice that it's in at negative because remember, all of your resources in your master are 0, because I would need to then go into the worksheet and put in a rate for my bricks, for my face brick. So as an example, I'm getting my face brick for 7,000. I then can store the worksheets, calculates, still negative, maybe my bricks are too cheap. Make these 28,000. Store the worksheets, and then I have now priced my extra over brickwork. So now all the ball items are basically priced. The only things that are not priced are the waterproofing and the painting, because those are subcontractor packages. I'm now going to go out of this job, the tender, and I already have a fully priced job that I've done for the seminar today. So I'm going to go into the fully priced job, and we're now going to look at some reporting. Okay, so these are essential estimating reports. The first report is your trade total display. I'm going to take you through your value analysis 80-20, and then lastly your resource percentage. So trade total display. Trade total display is found here. It looks like a pie chart. When you open this up, you can now see, based on your bill quantity, your net rate, you can see the value. So for my brickwork or blockwork, the net amount is 353,000, and all of that money sits under labor. For concrete, 411,339 of that is for labor, 72,000 is for plant. You can then see the breakdown of your trade totals net amount. So 57% of the job is your preliminaries in general, brickwork and blockwork is 6%, concrete is 7%. So that's broken up into your trades. The circle on the right-hand side is your resource type. So 57% of the job is PNGs, 14% is labor, and 8% is plant, and 21% is subcontractor. Okay. You can also view this at a gross and selling level, but we're going to do that when we've applied markup to the actual job. The next report that we're going to look at is I'm going to recover a estimating report. So you are able to override the current reports that we have. And mine is found here under virtual seminar estimating. Okay, so the one report that we're going to look at is called the 80-20. So it's 80-20 rule of thumb. So I'm going to click on new report. Back up again, let's just get it right this time. And there it is there, recover the data. There's my first report, which is my value analysis 80-20. We preview that report. This now takes 20% of the bill items that make up 80% of the value. Okay, so we're not going to really go and focus on low value items, the nuts and the bolts of the job. We're going to focus more on the high value items. So if you look at the walls, it's how many square meters, the quantity, the rate, and the percentage total. So we're focusing on high value items here. If we focus on these high value items, that means that we might make money at the end of the job. The next report that we can look at is your resource analysis by trades and types. You click on it and then preview. Okay, so this is now looking at trades. So there's my trade for preliminaries in general, my trade for brickwork and blockwork, and then you can see it by resource type. So there's my labor components. When you get to concrete, you'll notice it's broken up into the resource types, PNG, labor, and plant, and you can see all of the resources that contribute to labor and all of the resource types that contribute to the trade concrete. Now that we've priced the job, we are going to go and look at tender finalization. How do we finalize a tender within Candy? So the process, what is a tender finalization? The tender process, the process of completion or approval of the tender procedure. So all aspects of the tender are looked at in detail, and then all the relevant role players are present in the meeting or discussion, and all details or issues are identified and dealt with accordingly. So the steps in finalizing a tender in Candy is firstly to establish what your net rate is by pricing the tender using first principles. Once you've applied first principles in pricing, you're then going to apply markup to give you your gross rate. You then need to understand what the difference is between your net versus your gross versus your selling rate. You need to then price your indirect, your PNGs. You then do your tender reports And then part of your tender finalization pack is your, in Candy, is your trade total display. You do a confidence check to make sure everything has been priced. You then do your finalization top sheet and a Californian envelope. Okay, so let's understand how we would go about applying markup and what is markup. So it is the process of enhancing the estimate's net rates to allow for profit, indirect cost and escalation, etc. The enhanced rate is the gross rate. Markup can be positive or negative. So the example that you see here is you have a net of 10, you add 10% to it, which is basically 1, gives you a gross of 11. Another example is if you have 9 plus 10% is basically 0.9. So 9 plus 0.9 gives you 990. And the same goes for 12. By adding 10%, it's 120. By adding 120 to 12, gives you 1320. So the gross rate is a calculated rate. So if you make changes to your net rates or your markup, it will change your gross. And that is where we now introduce another rate, which we call our selling rate. So before we even look at our selling rate, let's go and apply markup to the current job that we have. Okay, so I'm going to open up my document manager, and you'll notice that the document is not here. I need to bring it through. So I'm going to click on new document, bill pricing, and document number 1.6. There it is. You can see that's how you would bring it through, but it is there already. Let's go into it. Open up the markup board. Okay, so the first method of applying markup is in the markup percent column. You right click, you go into general markup utilities, and you mark up all the trades. And again, we want to mark it up by 10%. We click on OK, and we can confirm. You notice that the process is completed. If you scroll down, you'll notice now that all your bill items have been allocated 10% across the board. You are able then to also do what we call a trade markup. So we've marked up all the trades. The next one is what we call a trade markup. So again, in the markup percent column, right click, markup, general markup utilities, and the first option there, the trade markup. So if we want to make our tender slightly more competitive, so our paintwork and our waterproofing is going to get subcontracted out. We don't really need to do any hard work when it comes to that. So I'm going to reduce my paintwork to 5% markup, and also my waterproofing. Okay, to make my bid a bit more competitive, I'm changing it to 5%. Okay, so now that I've changed it, if I actually go to my painting and my waterproofing, you'll notice in the markup percent column, I have 5% for waterproofing and also 5% for my painting. Okay, the next type of markup is what we call an individual markup. And how do you do an individual markup? So for my next item under earthworks is site clearance. I want to allow a bit of beef, and I can simply overtype it here, 20, and you then notice it's an individual markup, but it gets a little dot. And if you hover your mouse over that dot, you can notice that it's individual markup. The next type of markup is what we call a resource type risk markup. And what is the resource type risk markup? So the resource type risk is used to add markup to resource types components of a net rate. So it's only components of that net rate. So for example, if you want to mark up all your labor content of your net rate by a further 10%, so maybe you are allowing a bit of risk. So if both the trade and the individual markup and risk are used, there will be markup on markup. Okay, so markup on top of markup. So the gross rate is calculated according to the following. It's your gross rate, which equals your net multiplied by 1 plus risk plus in brackets 1 plus markup percent. So that is what we call the resource type risk. And how do you go about allocating this in Candy? Applying it, you then right click on the markup percent column, general markup utilities and resource type risk. Okay, so before you do that, I would advise that you read the little help file. It explains to you here how you go about adding markup and how the calculation works. Okay, now that we've applied markup, we need to understand using your net versus your gross versus your selling. So firstly, at tender stage, we have our net plus our applied markup, which gives us our gross. 10 plus 10% gives us 11, and so on. So the gross rate is a calculated rate, and changes made to the net rates or the markup will change the gross rates. At the post-tender phase, your selling rate minus your net gives you your calculated markup. So you'll notice at the tender stage, it is called applied. Post-tender, it's calculated. So now we take the gross rate and we copy it into our selling. Okay, because remember, if we get any discounts from our suppliers or subcontractors, we don't want to pass that on to our clients. So we still have our 11 minus our net of 10, which gives us our 10%. What happens if we are able to get our resource slightly cheaper? So instead of us getting it for 10, we're able to get it for 9. So 11 minus 9 then gives us 2, which equals a 22.22% calculated markup. And things could also go the other way. If we are not able to get our resource for 10, we're only able to get it for 12, and we've only charged the client 11, it means we're actually going to lose 1, which makes it a negative 8.33%. So the selling rate is locked, and then changes made to the net rates will not change the selling rate, and the difference between the net rate and the selling rates will calculate the calculated markup. Before we do that, let's go and set our selling rates in place. So we can close this and click on Document Manager, and there we have our selling bill of quantities, document number 1.7. Our selling bill of quantities, document number 1.7. So you'll notice that we have the gross rate, it's been grayed out. And the reason it's been grayed out is because it's a calculator. You cannot go and change it because you need to either change the markup or your net rate. So in the selling rate column, we're going to right click. We're going to copy the selling rate from gross, and then we can overwrite any of the existing. If there are any rates that are 0, we're going to copy those also, and we're going to lock the selling rates after and click on OK. It tells me that there have been 127. I can confirm that. Now you'll notice that your gross rates and your selling rates are the same. Once I click on calculate, you'll notice that my amount, my gross amount, 6.6 million, is exactly the same as my selling. Now that we've got all that in place, we need to now go and do our indirect costs. Which we call our PNGs or our preliminaries. So the indirect costs are costs directly included, not directly included in the bill items. They are non-productive costs or preliminary costs required in the projects, i.e. supervision, plant, services, etc. The indirect bill is a separate schedule of items which can be either time, value, or fixed based items which are managed within Candy for tender, forecast, and post-contract purposes. The indirect costs in Candy is a second bill that allows users to price the internal preliminaries, overhead costs, both time and value related, in a pricing document that gives the user optional access to bar charts to assist the spreading of costs over time. The indirect costs can be created in the master job and recovered into the pricing job to simplify and speed up the pricing process. When it comes to allocating or pricing your indirects, there are three different methods. The first method, which I'm going to take you through at the demonstration, is the time input. So this option limits post-tender control for monthly spreads, and we do not recommend it. This is similar to plugging a rate in Candy. The second method is the start and end input. This option allows for better post-tender information, but is restricted to monthly entry and control. The third method, which is the best method, is the bar chart input. Your indirects can be spread over the bill of quantity as specified by the user. So I'm going to take you through in Candy how we go about doing this. Under estimating, we have a menu here for indirects. And then we have indirect cost documents. The first method is the indirect time input. So this is the one that we do not recommend. Okay, so you'll notice here, if I open up all of my level headings, here you have a project manager. You have one project manager at 0.25% of his time. His monthly rate has not been plugged. It's actually been priced using first principles. It gets the value. Next, you have a safety officer. You have one safety officer at 25% of his time. Okay. You then also have a site agent. You can see you have him there. So this is not the best method of pricing. Indirect cost document. The next best method is the start and end inputs. So here you'll notice that you can put in information to say that this project manager only needs to start in the 3rd month and he's going to end in the 12th month. He does not need to be there for the full duration of the project, which means he'll be there for 10 months multiplied by his unit rate of 39,000. And again, it's a built up rate. It's not a plug rate to give you the value of that subcontractor. Sorry, not subcontractor, your PNG resource. You then have your site agent. He's there from the beginning of the project all the way until the end. And this is how it would be for every single PNG resource that you require on the job. The next method is the best method because it is the bar chart input method. And what's really nice about this is you can actually see visually on the bar chart when someone is actually supposed to start and when they're supposed to leave. So if we look at the safety officer as an example, you can see that the start date is the 21st of Feb 2021, and he'll be there until the 31st of December. You can also view it on the bar. So you see that he's not starting in January, he's only starting in the beginning of Feb, and you can see when he'll be working. And then you can see that that's the end of the project. He'll be right there until the end. So when it comes to things like containers, site offices, or ablutions, you can see that at the end of September, visually in your offices, they need to be off-site. You haven't allowed for them in your PNG. And that's the benefits of using the bar charts. Also with this, because you are basically spreading his money, so that the net amount total over time, you'll then be able to get some reports from this. So the next thing that we're going to look at are your indirect cost bar charts, and we're going to look at your indirect cost monthly spread. So back in Candy, under indirect cost documents, under your indirect analysis, you have your monthly spread. So let's view that document. So this is beautiful because you can see that for your project manager, you're not going to incur any costs for him in January or February. He's only starting in the 3rd month, and you can see the money that you basically will be spending for that PNG resource. For your site agent, he's obviously going to be there from the beginning all the way until the end of the project, and you can see that money. So the the best way of managing your PNG resources. The next report, document that we're going to look at is your indirect resource analysis. Okay, we click on calculate, and you can now see in terms of how much of your PNG resources, how much you're actually going to be using. Okay, so as an example, we're not going to need any water in the first 3 months of the job, then we're going to need water. Better example would be your clerks. There's all of your PNG resources here. So remember, these are all my PNG resources. So before we continue, we just want to make sure that we have the correct value. So if I close everything, and you see that is basically what my PNG has worked out to. I need to take this money from my indirects and paste it onto my main bill of quantities. Okay, so on my main bill of quantities, I'm going to go look for the one item which the estimator has marked as provisional. So I'll click on view, filter, provisional rates, and you can see that the estimator has been kind enough to mark this rate as provisional because that is the PNGs. If I open that up, and I'm just going to put this on the bottom half of my screen, this I'm going to minimize, and you see that I've now taken that 2.4 million and I've put it in there, and then also the 1 million, I've put that in to give me my 3.447. I store the worksheets. I can now go and click on calculate, abandon this filter, and the value of my project is 6,047,000. Now that we've passed the job and we're happy with everything, we've obviously gone and done our confidence check to make sure that we don't have any plug items, split items. We are now able to do our tender finalization top sheet. So before we continue, what is a tender finalization top sheet? So a finalization can be done from within Candy using the finalization top sheet. So a lot of companies would extract all of this information from Candy onto their own company finalization forms. That is not necessary anymore. We can do it in Candy. So this facility will copy the relevant data from your Candy estimate to specified cells on an Excel top sheet template that you have on your computer. What is the method? So to get your top sheets onto this list, you should contact your local office for support, and you're going to need to provide a copy of your Excel top sheet specifying what Candy data is to be copied to which cells on the top sheet. The CCS staff will then include your company in a list on this dialog and write a small program to copy the required data to the Excel top sheet. So we have a Candy template which we are willing to share with all of our clients, but if you want one specifically designed for your company, there's a small charge to it, so please contact your local CCS office. So how does it work? So it works, so you would issue your top sheet to the user to store on their computer. When using this facility, Candy transfers the specified data to the cells on the top sheet. Excel top sheet then recalculates using this Candy data and your formula on your format. So I'll show you where you find it under settings. So your top sheet will be listed in the definitions and settings, number 6.4, which is top sheet, where you'll be required to browse to the top sheet template, and it'll be stored in your computer, and then select which worksheets to export the data to. So remember, we've established what our net rate is, we've applied markup, we've put our selling rates in place, we've done a check tender finalization, and in our finalization, we checked any plug rates, split rates, we fixed all of those, we've been through all of our worksheets, and we're happy. Now we need to finalize. We click on finalization, top sheets, and then top sheets based on the bill quantity. So the new method is to select the Candy standard. You then need to select a contract number. My contract number is 5. I'm going to click on yes, and then it exports the data. And then it says the Candy integration, where would the resulting Excel file be saved to? So I've already set up my external documents. I'm going to select external documents, and then Candy does all the work for us. In this time, you guys would be copying information from Candy to Excel for your tender finalization, which takes a lot more time than this. So remember, Candy's just thinking. And while Candy is thinking, we're just going to wait a little bit. So it's quite a process because it's extracting all of that information. We then need to map all of our items. So our indirect costs, our PNG, we want it to be bill headings. Our direct costs, our own work, we want to view it by trade, our subcontractors by resources, provisional sums, also by resources. We need to map our subcontractors to a capital letter S, which is for subcontracts. Provisional sums, a capital letter X. Now click on continue. So Candy will now start with doing the mapping process. Okay, so the transfer was successful. I can click on OK, and there I have my external documents, and there is my Candy top sheet for my digital twin office park. Now open that up. So you'll notice at the bottom of my screen has created an Excel. Just going to wait for it to load. And now it is ready because it's flashing. And here is my top sheet. So you can see you are able to put in your company logo. Again, we only give you the template. If you do want your logo in there, it's at a little cost. There's the contract number, the tender number. You can now view your indirect costs at a resource level. You then have your direct costs, and it's broken up into your different trades. You have your subcontractor amounts and your provisional sums. You then get your totals. Number 4 would be any tender adjustments. So if you want to allow some additional contract risk, this white cell is the entry column, the gray ones are no entry columns. You could put in your measurement contingency. You could even include your tender costs, additional money there for fixed price or escalation, design costs, company overheads. And then viewing them at a column level, you can see there's your Candy money. You can make any adjustments to get your final. And you'll notice on the new top sheet, we've included a few more features. So by clicking on this plus, it then opens up the remarks column. And in the remarks column, any remarks from Candy would get pulled through, or you could go and type in remarks. If you want to view your subcontractors, again, next to subcontractors, number 2B is a little plus sign. Click on that plus, and now you can see for your paintwork subcontractor who you've used in the remarks column. Same thing for your waterproofing subcontractor. You can see who you've used. You can see their values. And then right at the bottom, you can see your tender total as submitted. You can get the relevant parties, the estimating manager, the bid leader, ops manager, and all these other individuals, including the CEO, to sign it off. And once it's done, you then have your top sheet chart. So this is really nice because you can see in a pie chart your direct and your indirect costs. You can also see your bill net by task. So if you use task codes, and then you can also view your bill net by resource type, looking at your direct and indirect costs. And then we also have the subcontractor adjudicator. You'll notice that it's blank. You need to click on this little icon here which says load subbies. And once it loads all the subbies, you can then see all of the relevant information regarding your subcontractors. So why you've gone with quick painters instead of rainbow painters, you can see there's a variance of 15.37%. So that is the end of my session. Why you've gone. I want to thank you for taking the time out. Quick painters, and then the last tab is user instructions, and all download the user instructions.
Thank you, Brindley. To close off day one session, I would like to end off with a short clip which showcases our cost management and enterprise accounting solution, Bill Smart. When integrated with Candy, the two software products gives you a complete solution that manages the entire construction life cycle from tender to final account. Please do not forget to complete the event survey that will land in your email inboxes shortly. And as always, please do not hesitate to reach out to us with your questions and queries. I thank you.
Only the best is built on a rock-solid foundation, which is why RIB CCS developed unique, powerful construction and engineering software like BuildSmart, our game-changing enterprise accounting, procurement, and cost management solution for the built environment that enables businesses to excel in the digital age of construction. Developed by contractors for contractors, BuildSmart leverages years of industry experience, providing organizations with the tools to gain a competitive advantage. Visit ribccs.com and speak to us today. RIB CCS, the foundation of future success.
Build best practice with Candy in 2021. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't registered for our planning and post-tender sessions, click on the button below.